Welcome to High Spirit Vlogs. In today's video, I will be sharing with you the top 5 countries that have recently opened their borders that you need to visit. Due to the health situation happening right now across the world, a lot of countries were forced to close their borders in order to protect the health of their citizens and locals. Now that things are starting to improve across the world, some countries are now starting to open their borders to allow for tourists to visit the country. Please note, even though these countries have reopened their borders, please be aware that some of them require you to follow their strict guidelines in order to be accepted into the country's borders. I'll leave a link in the description that gives you all the information on all the countries and their health restrictions for tourists. So let's go. I will now show you the top 5 countries that you need to visit, starting from number 5 all the way to number 1. So let's go. Number 5 is Germany. When we heard that travel to Germany was possible again, I was so happy, as Germany is one of my favorite countries to travel to for its food and youthful culture. I did further research and found that all travelers from the European Union, Britain, or countries in the Schengen area no longer need to go into quarantine upon arrival. Travelers can now move freely throughout Germany. So if you have always wanted to visit Berlin and see the Brandenburg Gate or visit its other big cities such as Munich, Hamburg, Frankfurt, and many more, you are now fully free to do so without any restrictions. If you are thinking of traveling to Germany but you're not flying in from Europe, I would check the list of countries that are allowed free entry. From my research, I found that the following countries that are allowed into Germany without restrictions are Georgia, Australia, Canada, Montenegro, New Zealand, Thailand, Tunisia, and Uruguay. If you live in one of these countries and you are thinking of traveling to Germany, you'll be allowed access. However, you may need to go into isolation for 14 days upon arrival. So if your country is not on the list, entry for you guys is not just yet. But Germany said that they will be reviewing the list every few weeks, so the list will be expanding, but you've just got to give it a bit of time. Number 4, France. Travelers from EU member states such as Iceland, Monaco, Norway, Switzerland, and many more have been allowed to visit the country without any health certificate. However, if you're coming from Spain or the UK, you'll be asked to go into a 14-day isolation upon arrival. In France and other major cities in France, a lot of the bars, cafes, hotels have been reopening. In Paris in particular, the famous Louvre in Paris has finally opened, as well as other major tourist attractions. So if you're planning to visit the major cities of France as well as Paris, rest assured that you will at least enjoy it because a lot of the major tourist attractions will be open, but they will still be following hygiene law and restrictions. Number 3, Aruba. Aruba has reopened its borders for tourists from Canada, Europe, and the rest of the Caribbean. According to my research, Aruba will now begin receiving travelers from the United States. However, there have been changes. According to the Aruba authorities, all visitors have to present a certificate showing a negative test that has been confirmed from a certified lab. In addition, this test has to have been taken no more than 72 hours prior to departure. Also, according to the authorities in Aruba, it is advised that tourists purchase an Aruba visitor's insurance to protect them from any medical expenses that may arise from traveling during this time. Again, please check the link in the descriptions of the countries and their individual regulations. Also, all passengers will need to fill out an electric form and all tourists will be screened before entering into the country. As you can tell, it's quite a few steps of checking before they let you through. But once they let you through, the view of the beaches, the food, the people, the music will all be worth it. We found that a number of resorts and hotels are reopening. So once you have gone through the checks and the process, you can truly enjoy your holiday in style. Number two, Barbados. Barbados just recently opened its borders to international travelers. According to their new regulations, Americans will be able to board commercial flights to visit Barbados. In terms of their rules, the authorities have asked for travelers to take a test before they proceed to travel to Barbados. I think it's best as it will save you a lot of time and headache when you land. Because as you can see already, a lot of countries have their own individual processes for getting travelers through into their country. According to the border authorities in Barbados, they stated that visitors who have not taken a test before departure will be required to take them upon arrival and will be in isolation, self isolation at their own expense until the results come through. As mentioned before, if you face the risk of being in isolation at your own expense, it is just better to save yourself some money and time by taking a test before traveling. It's really just the best option. In terms of the tourist spots, life on the island has pretty much returned back to normal. During the height of the crisis, there was a curfew in place, but it has now been lifted. So the beaches and the tourist attractions are fully available to enjoy. However, still keep in mind hygiene and wearing protective gear to protect your health and others while you are on holiday. As you can see here, Barbados, even though there's pockets of activity, there's obviously still quite a lot of space, a lot of people keeping their distance, but you can see that people are slowly getting back into it. So just be rest assured that if you do decide to visit Barbados, just know that at least there will be things to do and there will be people to interact with. Everyone won't be under curfew or in their houses, so there'll be a bit of activity, so you guys can really enjoy your holiday. Thinking about it now, actually, traveling during this time is kind of a blessing in disguise. Because when you think about it, especially us who are travelers and tourists who tend to fly frequently, we're always faced with overcrowding, especially when we travel during the high season. And the good thing about traveling during this time is that you can actually go to the bars, the restaurants, the cafes, the tourist attractions without having to deal with large crowds or having to deal with very long waiting times. So if you look at it from an optimistic point of view, you can take this time to go to places that you've always wanted to visit, but you felt stopped you because of the amount of crowds. So in a way, if you think about it, it kind of is a blessing in disguise. And number one is Iceland. Iceland is another country that has reopened its borders to tourists. In some cases, travelers may need to go into isolation for 14 days upon arrival. There's another option that requires a traveler to do a test on arrival. This test is not free and you will have to pay $112 to do it. Again, before you travel, please check the country's laws and regulations before you travel to that country. It's just really important to keep up to date with the changing laws of the destination country, just so that you're not caught off guard or put in a very difficult situation when you arrive. I put this country as number one as it's one of the countries that has been really effective and efficient in its system of tracking and tracing any new spreads with people coming in and out of the country. As more countries begin to reopen, I think safety and hygiene will be top of mind for people and travelers who want to be reassured and just to feel confident that they will be kept safe and healthy as they travel. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you know anyone who's considering traveling to any of the countries mentioned, feel free to share the video with them. And I'll see you guys later. Take care. Bye bye.